Assalamu alaikum guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're new, I'm Aisha and today I'm with my husband Ibrahim.
Salaamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Okay. So we started this channel together initially, but then we fell off and I started it back. And today I have a guest feature and I will be getting yes.
Thanks for giving salams.
Good. And I will be getting the tea from him as I have some juicy questions that I will ask him.
I haven't made any tea.
That's okay. You're gonna make it now. The first question is it okay if a woman cannot cook?
Well, what do you mean by okay?
Will you be fine with it? Is are men okay with their woman not knowing how to cook?
I don't know. I can't speak for all men.
Okay. So were you okay?
Well, good thing I knew how to cook.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing for sure. But you learned how to cook.
I'm an awesome
And
cook.
you got really good.
I'm extremely good.
But when you first get married, you're gonna have to have an iron gut. There's a learning curve involved.
Honey, I chose this question specifically for me, so you can brag on my cooking if you want.
Yes, you are an amazing cook now.
Mm-hmm.
Your cooking is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
You're always wowing the guests, and they're telling you to open a restaurant.
That's true. I'm an awesome cook.
But you know, if the question is like in general, it's what people decide to do.
Yes.
Most humans that I've met need to eat. So eating is a pretty regular part of human life. So someone needs to be preparing food, unless, I guess, they just decide to live on like packaged foods or stuff. But I mean, if that's what they decide to, it's just people need to be on the same page.
Mm-hmm. So it's not really a requirement because people need to eat.
Well, it's an ask. You gotta ask until people find out. Like
Mm-hmm.
someone's gonna need to be cooking.
Yeah. You like your woman to cook?
I do.
Okay. How much money do you make? Or why are you hesitant to say how much money you make?
Did you just wait so you could get me on a video to ask me that question?
Yes. So you gotta be honest. You said that you're super honest to a fault. So let's see how much honesty you have.
Well, the second part of the question was why do men not want to answer how much money they make?
Mm-hmm. Or why they're hesitant to answer.
Well, Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah said in his book Bidayat al-Hidayah, he gives advice on why you should never say how much money you make. Because if you tell people how much money you make and it's more than they thought, then they're going to think less of you because they think you make too much, and they think of you as that. And if you tell people how much money you make and it's less than what they thought, then they'll think you're insignificant. So it's a lose-lose situation. Someone went and asked Imam Shafi'i how old he was, rahimahullah, and he gave a similar answer. He said, don't ask me how old I am, because if I tell you I'm older than you think, you're going to think that I'm too old and I don't know what is affecting people. And if I tell you that I'm younger than you think, then you're going to think I don't have enough experience to speak about anything.
Okay.
So there's no benefit in it. It's maybe why do women not like to say how much they weigh?
Interesting.
What's the point of asking those questions and getting in people's business?
Okay. That's a good answer. Alright, the next one is, do guys shave their pubes?
I don't know what all guys do,
Okay.
but it's a sunnah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would shave, so he would shave his privates and his armpits and stuff like that. So that's from the practice of Rasulullah. That's from the practice of the Prophet Muhammad. God bless him and give him peace. So that's something that
So all Muslim men should be doing that.
yes, people should be following the sunnah.
Uh-huh.
Where did you get these questions from? Now I'm turning the table asking you the questions.
Doesn't matter.
Where did you get all these
I did a
questions?
survey.
You did a survey from your fans.
From my friends.
From fans and friends, and then collected questions that people wanted to know.
Yeah. So is it okay?
Second question: how much am I getting paid for this interview?
What are you eating?
I'm eating. Okay.
I'm slaving away for you.
You're slaving away for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, so is it okay for women to ask if there is an attraction? If they want to feel out if the guy likes her as well?
What do you mean?
Okay,
Are they married?
No. But she sees someone and she's interested in him. Is it okay if she asks these things? Not like come back to my home, but is there an attraction? Is it okay for that?
Like, so she sees someone she likes, so then she goes up to him and says, "Do you like me?"
Yeah, because she wants to know if they're on the same page, more or less.
I don't see a problem with that, but it needs to be done with wisdom. She doesn't want to put herself in a situation where she might be embarrassed, or people might like come back at her in a certain way. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking of a situation, maybe it's like a school environment, and maybe people will tease her for it or something.
Yeah,
So you want to act with some kind of wisdom about how people will react as well. But
Rejection is never fun.
sure, but I mean that'll be an aspect of it, no matter how well she goes about asking the question. But that's a question that needs to be asked at some point. If you're making doing matchmaking, pairing people.
Yeah. So you won't recommend that a lady ask. She should like send someone to ask for her. More or less.
Well, I think that family should be involved. If someone likes somebody else, there should be openness in the family to discuss it, and then the family can make the connections. So if my daughter grows up and my daughter likes somebody sometime, and she says, "I like so and so," I can know so and so and know their parents, and I can ask about what they think, and then they're being asked by their parents. So the son is being asked, the father of so and so, mentioned you. What do you think of this girl? And he say, get all shy, say, "Oh, I like her," or "Oh, it's not really for me, mom." So I think that all parents and children, and there should be openness and connection in the family. But of course, things don't always work out in an ideal way. So people need to work with what's around them.
Do you help with whatever needs to be done around the home, kids, chores, etc.? Or should men do it? This was another asked question.
Well, the question's not for me. Maybe the second part is.
No, it's really in general. Like she wants to know ruling, more or less. It was a revert sister. So she wants to know if men are supposed to help around with the chores around the house.
Well, rulings. As a basis for any Muslim, right, getting an understanding of how we operate in an ethical space as Muslims, and like understanding what Allah has decreed and understanding what the jurists have said. As far as I know, it's understood by all scholars. There's an ijma that there's these categories of rulings that everything is going to fall into. So you have what's fard, or obligatory. You have what's recommended. You have what's permissible without dislike. You have what is disliked, and you have what's forbidden. So, things go into these 5 categories, and we have to understand things in those categories. For example, feeding your neighbors, if your neighbor's hungry, is recommended. Okay, it's very encouraged. It's not to be belittled. But at the same time, someone who doesn't do it, it's not an obligation for him to do it. It's not impermissible for him not to do it. So it's not haram. It's not fard. it's recommended. That's not belittling the action of feeding our neighbors, but it's just saying that you can't go to someone and accost them and shake them, grab them by the collar and shake them. You know, why aren't you doing this thing you're supposed to be doing? But then again, even if someone doesn't do something which is obligatory, we shouldn't treat someone like that. So rulings have to be understood, first off, with someone who's spiritually mature enough to know that it's a conversation with that soul, and not the conversation of how am I going to go treat other people. So if we learn a certain ruling, that's not a ruling, that does not give someone a license to go and start treating people a certain way. The ruling is supposed to be understood from that soul of this is what God wants from me. So if something is obligatory, that person should take that to themselves and understand that that's obligatory and that's their relationship with God. Not they can go and treat other people a certain way because they don't do what's obligatory.
Okay.
Right? And also something that's obligatory, or not obligatory, right? Something that's not obligatory doesn't necessarily mean that it has no value. Like I mentioned, it's not obligatory to go and feed your neighbors. There's many hadith that talk about it. There's ayat of the Quran that talk about it. It's very, very emphasized and it's very, very important. But it's not in the ruling, in the category of rulings of something that's obligatory, where you have to absolutely have to do it, and if you don't do it, then you're accountable for that. It's something which, if you do, there's a huge reward in it. So I'm trying to make a bit of a distinction so that we understand that there's a big aspect of morality that's not included in just a cold legal understanding of things. So, you answer the first part of the question now, and then I'll answer what I understand from the second part. So, do I do what I need? Do I do what needs to be done around the house, and the kids, and the cooking, and the cleaning, and different things?
Yes. You slow down some since you started working, but I won't forget that. Not a big deal.
Since I got these shifts,
Yeah.
these hours.
But
What are my shifts?
Hmm?
What are my shifts? How many hours am I working?
1 to 1. It's a very long time, yes, but I have 3 kids, honey.
12 hours a day?
It's overwhelming with 3 kids. But anyways, not all the time. But you do a good job. So
No, not all the time, but I got off work at like 1 o'clock in the morning the other day, and then I stayed up, swept the house, and wiped the counters, and did those,
Well,
But I don't do that every night.
I can't speak for what I
But-
see. If I'm sleeping, I won't see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was gonna ask, do you think there are gender roles in Islam? Assigned gender roles? I'm not gonna hold you to it.
What I was taught is that there's gender roles. Mm-hmm.
There are.
Yep. That's what I was taught. Man and a woman are naturally different, and they have different obligations and different roles that they fill.
I think I do agree with that. But like for me, I never take up the trash. I think that's a gender role thing.
Mm-hmm.
Men do that. I don't do it. I will never take out the trash. That's something that I just never did.
I don't think to this day that ever once have I nursed any of our kids.
That's true.
So, I mean, there's some gender roles,
Mm-hmm.
you might say. I don't know. People might want to argue.
If someone comes to attack us, I assume you will step in front of everyone and not me.
That's sexist.
Oh well.
If there's a bump in the night, and I say, honey, it's your turn tonight. You have to go check it this time.
Well, then we all die. But yeah, there are certain things where men and women are different. That's it.
There's a lot of,
Not good.
I'll just use my fingerprint because my
Mhm.
password's really long. But one thing is, and we were actually talking about this like 2 weeks ago when my brother came to visit. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was the stay-at-home dad provided for by his wife for like 20 years, 25 years when he was married to Khadija. Khadija was the breadwinner, had all the money, and he was an orphan, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, had no money, and did the stay-at-home dad thing for 25 years. And he's the pinnacle of example and of masculinity and everything. And Khadija was so devout, and she was devout to Allah and devoted to her husband. And she was very, very, she was a perfect example for women to follow. You know, so I don't think that a relationship should be defined by who makes money or more money. That should somehow like decide the roles in the relationship. If a woman is making more money and wants to work, and a man wants to stay at home and maybe teach the kids, something like that, the man shouldn't feel like emasculated from it, and the woman shouldn't feel like her emasculated, yeah, or think less of her husband for it, because he is still a man, she's still a woman. They still have their same essential natures, whether they're going this role or that role. There's not something that's necessarily connected between a woman and cooking. There's not something necessarily connected between a man and soldiering or construction work. But there are a lot of realities as far as a general scope for safety outside the house, and a general scope for the ability to get pregnant and have children. And again, human beings, speaking about how human beings tend to eat before, human beings tend to be born, and when you're born from a mother and a father, and it's a family unit. Those are pretty essential human realities, which need to be navigated. And the conversation needs to be honest. Whatever conclusion people come to, we have our religion, we know what we think is right and wrong, but people should at least have the conversation and have an honest conversation about the realities, and then come to their own conclusions.
Is it strange for men, or is it something taboo to speak about history with mental health?
Yes.
Okay.
Men aren't allowed to be weak or show emotion. It's very, very strong. Women have broken a lot of the requirements that they used to have in society, but men have yet to do any of that. Men still have as much burden and judgment for fitting in their gender roles as they've ever had. And as much shame as there's ever been if a man fails to live up to what's the idea of a man. But a woman doesn't have that anymore. A woman doesn't live up to what is, the stereotype of a woman. No one can accost her for that. But for a man, and men know this, there's an incredible pressure and shame, and men don't get complimented or I don't even know all of these kinds of things about mental health. It's just not present. There's not an environment for it, at least in the cultures that I've seen growing up in America, being a Western person.
But if you ever feel like you need to talk,
Yes.
if you ever feel like you need to talk,
Yes.
you can talk to me.
Oh, okay.
Okay, next one. Did you have a long-term relationship, and how did it end?
Yep, I do. I've had a long-term relationship now, running on 5 years.
I was the longest. I was.
Yep. I have a long-time relationship now. Been married for 5 years, nearly, coming very close to
Okay, honey,
turning the corner.
Besides me, though, what was your longest relationship before me?
Well, before I accepted Islam, I had a long-term relationship.
For how long?
I don't know.
A year?
Yeah, I think it was a year,
Okay.
give or take. I don't know exactly.
Because it's like, some people like think if you can't have like a long-term relationship, then you have no sense on how to even have a relationship. But that's not true because we're still together.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Like, if there's someone that constantly having multiple short relationships instead of just one huge.
Well, yeah, there's a something to be said for pattern behavior,
Mhm.
and I think people form habits. I think it's very, very foolish, this idea of finding what you want and learning about yourself and learning what you want in a relationship, and you go through 2, 3, 4 relationships. All you're doing is you're practicing how to break up, and you're training all of the wrong habits, making all the wrong connections in your neurological pathways. You're just setting yourself up with a bad conditioning. So I don't think that that works. But I don't think necessarily being that, like what they call like a serial monogamist, where you're with someone for a few years, and you go and then you're with someone else for a few years, and you go and you're with someone else for a few years. But what's unfortunate is people don't really think about like cases. They have like want to make it simple and like sweep everything like generally. I think like these questions even are like, do guys this, do this, that.
Yeah.
It's not. There's not the general reality like that.
Yeah.
You need to look at cases, individual situations, individual basis, case by case basis, individual relationships, and see things. Because in Islam, there's not a taboo about divorce.
I think too, people need to know the difference between being picky and like if they're picky or if they're a quitter. Like some people say, oh, I'm too picky, I don't like this and this and this. Or maybe it's just that you quit too quickly. Yeah, that's just my 3 cents. What's your skincare routine? Tell everyone how you have such flawless skin.
Skincare routine?
What do you do to
You mean like when I get a cut or something?
No, how do you maintain your skin? Especially the face.
What do you mean? Maintain my skin. It maintains itself. I bathe.
How much are you willing to pay for a dowry?
Well, a dowry is something else.
A mahar in Islam.
A bride price.
A bride price.
A dowry is what they used to do in Europe,
Yeah.
and they still do it in certain places
India.
where the wife's family will make a monetary gift to the groom, since he would need to take care of the daughter from then on. But in Islam, the situation is reversed. In Islam, the man actually gives a gift to the wife. How much would I be willing to pay? I wouldn't feel comfortable exceeding the mahar that was paid to Sayyidatina Fatima. So,
What was that?
like in today's money, maybe $400.
Okay.
But yours was a lot more than that. So
All the ladies are running.
yours was a lot more than that. But I think that's the maximum that I feel comfortable with, because I don't. Otherwise, it's just disrespectful to the best woman who'd ever lived. But you know, I think it depends how much people make and then how much. Yarhamkillah.
So even if you was
Super.
making like a whole chunk of change, you still won't want to go above that, just because.
For me, the way that I
Yeah.
think is, and the way that I think I understand things, I wouldn't increase how much I waste money just because I make more money. That doesn't mean I would increase how much money I waste. And I see a lot of these kind of luxury goods that people do as wasteful. I see a lot of luxury things as plain wasteful. So I don't think that if I had more money that I would be doing a lot of kinds of things. Like, for example, I don't think I could ever see myself flying like first class. If you spend $10,000 to fly first class rather than $1,000 to fly the same flight coach, I don't know how I could justify that $9,000 knowing that I could have fed 9,000 hungry people. So 9,000 people have to go hungry because I want an extra 6 inches of legroom.
Yeah.
If I have $10 million, I don't see how that equation changes. And that's that. I mean, I'm not saying what's haram or what's permissible, but that's my feeling about the subject.
Okay. Have you ever gotten into a fight and did you win?
I've gotten into a lot of fights and I've always lost.
It's okay. It's okay. So you're saying that if someone steps in front of us,
Now someone could watch the video and think that I'm an easy target.
so someone steps in front of us, should I take lead?
We had this discussion. When there's a bump in the night, I gotta send you out.
I got in a few fights. Those always defensive, not offensive.
What are you looking at me for?
'Cause
You want me to
had something to say
justify?
the other day.
You want me to agree with you and justify it?
Because you had something to say the other day.
The reason that I've
I
lost
don't
most of my
pick
fights is
fights.
largely because I don't believe in fighting and I don't believe in fighting back. I was a pacifist before I accepted Islam. After I accepted Islam, I understood that there is actually sometimes when it's okay to use force. But before Islam, I was straight pacifist, anarchist. I didn't even agree with the use of force to enforce governments and laws. But with Islam, I became balanced out, and I understand there is some importance to rule of law, some importance to use of legitimate force. But still, to a big extent, I carry that with me now, and I don't believe in. By violence, I'm referring to a physical act on another person, because I've heard some people actually try to redefine violence as shouting, or redefine violence as like pacing or throwing an object. If you throw an object at someone, or if you're like or breaking stuff, breaking things physically, or you lose your temper like that.
It's not the
If
best
someone
way to
defines violence like
regulate,
that, it depends.
it's not the best way to regulate your frustrations. Just wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it depends what you define violence as. Like regulate your frustration, lose your temper, get angry. Someone shouts or does that. When I say the word violence, what I meant is using physical force on a human being or an animal. Using physical force on a living creature, a human or an animal, I would define that as violence, but I guess people might have different definitions. But just so it's clear what I meant when I said that.
Throwing things is a bit
I don't think it's good behavior, but it's
debatable, because I know
my kids lose their temper and my kids will throw something. My kids will lose their temper, and I don't yell at them for throwing something. But if they bite somebody or they hit somebody, that's where I draw the line. But if they lose their temper and they smash their toy, I say, sorry, bud, your toy is smashed now, or they throw something out of anger. But
there's facilities for people to vent that way, though. It's like a way
of
relieving your frustrations by breaking things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Things.
I should have said that because I've heard people try and
I don't know if
redefine violence as breaking an object. So that's a good point that they actually have places where you can smash. I don't know what they call it, but that's literally a thing now.
Yeah.
It's a therapy, yeah. So it's actually therapy. There you go. You heard it here first.
And the last one, what do you do with your free time, if you have any?
I try and not waste a lot of time. I dedicate my free time to serving my family and to studying, always learning more, pursuing knowledge and practice spiritual knowledge and practice,
Mm-hmm.
as well as practical knowledge. I don't really engage in time wasting very much. So with my free time, I like to dedicate it towards something productive.
That's true. You do. I'm a bit, I don't know. I'm slightly different, but not that much. I don't study as often, but I don't waste a lot of time either. I'm always busy.
Your kids keeping you
I
busy.
wish I had a bit more time to myself to just not do stuff. This is me. This is me working right now. I'm just not getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta subscribe, like and subscribe, and then get this girl monetized.
And if you would like to see more content with us, I can link our most popular video up above, and I'll put some more towards the end as well. And that's it for us tonight.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thanks for tuning in. Salaamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, now we need to make a thumbnail.
Go through and pick a thumbnail from the thing and do
No.
your editing and everything. Or you want to do the thumbnail like the guy did it.
Okay.
Or he did his thumbnail right inside of his video, and this is all
Yeah.
still a part of the video.
I'm gonna quick cut the video so we make a thumbnail. So I need to look suspicious.
What do you want to do with the thumbnail? Is it going to be... You can just take it from the clip right now, like it's still recording, so you can take... You're going to pose like that? And then how am I going to pose? Are you going to look at me like with that pose, or look at the camera with the pose?
What so how do you ask people questions like this?
Well, you have 40 minutes of footage of asking me
Really?
questions, so...
Okay, how about this?
Are you looking at me or the camera?
Well, you.
Okay, so they're not even going to see you are doing
Okay,
this.
so what do I do? Annie?
I don't know, it's your thumbnail. I don't...
Okay. Good. I'm gonna find a good one.
You have to pose yourself in front of the green screen doing your pose, and then pose me in front of the green screen doing my pose, and then position us how close and far and big and small and wherever on the
Okay.
screen, and then have your background and have all of your stuff.
Okay,
I don't know, is that
so
is
you
that
do
what you're
your
gonna...
pose. That's a good idea.
Isn't that what people do on the YouTube?
So that's a good idea.
Well, that's my pose. My
You
pose is
scared
like
of the
this.
question.
Like this.
Oh my gosh.
What you coming at me with all this for? Whoa!
Okay. And what do? I do.
You had a lot of good ones. Do one of those and then see which one works out. Jeez. Get on your wrong side.
Okay, I think I got it.